Bengal's assembly. So all Varisht on the dais who represent the BJP and also the invited audience and the enthusiasts who want to know about what exactly we have done in the GST. But in between, I will also take this opportunity to every now and then say about what is being given as per the recommendation of the Finance Commission and beyond it also. I request the teams to distribute the facts about tax devolution, comparison between the 10 years or 11 years now of Prime Minister Modi-led government and also the 10 years before that under the UPA. To make sure that the numbers speak for themselves, you'll be able to take more informed call on how you want to present the facts in public domain when you're all discussing. So it also talks about the number of projects which have come to Bengal in the last 10 years and in the recent past what's more been added and so on. So the first set which got distributed to you has all the details that you need about money, devolution, projects which are coming to Bengal. All rightfully, I'm not in any way suggesting that we are doing a act of kindness, but I also want to confirm that there's nothing being denied. So that is what is the first set of documents. There is a second document set which is coming, probably they're just going to start distributing it, which specifically tells you about the new gen GST reforms, in which I'm not even going to the presentation as yet. The document set which will get distributed will tell you about what are the common use items in which the rates have come down. And before I go into that detail, the new generation GST reforms is a thorough review and a proposal which resulted in a proposal after the review. So the thorough review is what? In the last 8 years, keeping the framework intact, which was a framework formed at the stage of introducing GST, and we kept improving it in the last 8 years. But there was a time about 8 months ago, Honorable Prime Minister invited me and said, look, I want you to do something about GST. What his pain was that the good work done under GST in bringing the entire market of India together, subsuming both taxes and cesses which were introduced in various states, 24 of them together, 17 laws I think and many others, taxes and others less cesses and surcharges and duties. So they were all subsumed and India was made to be one single market so that the same item doesn't cost differently in different places, and also the toll tax and the crossing of the border, the logistic headaches, all of them were overcome. And at that time the rates, right at the beginning I want to put it before you, the 4 rates, which I'm not going into the presentation yet, but that presentation, that one slide will show you. It was 5, 12, 18 and 28. They were all decided on the basis of the committee which looked into how to fix the rates, and any item which was, let's say, one rate of tax in one state, another rate of tax in another state. As a result, you had the same item being at 3% in some states, 6% in some others, 7% in some others, and so on. They were brought together to be at 5. Similarly, those which were at 10 or those which were at 13 or 14 were brought together to be at 12. The closest available in the 4 rates, which was the GST from 17 to today. So that also was not fixed randomly. A complete exercise was taken up. For every item, what was the prevailing rate in different states. The closest it can be brought in, sometimes more, sometimes less, was to the 5, 12, 18 and 28 category. So that's the one which prevails. So what was the need for us to review? The need for us to review was, first of all, we didn't want 4 rates. But were we ready to get into one rate situation as yet? Not yet. Maybe sometime in future. So we brought together the entire set of commodities and understood it from 5 different parameters. One, is it going to help the poor, the middle class? By bringing the item down in terms of taxable rate, are we benefiting the poor and the middle class? If yes, yes, we'll do it. The next was, is it meeting the middle class's aspiration? Middle class pays the tax, but feels that if today they were to move from a small TV at home to a larger TV, they are paying lots more tax. Or they want to move from a small car or a scooter to a even better family car, even that was higher on the tax according to the perception, and maybe so, because of categories of taxes. And therefore the second parameter was, will it help the middle class to meet their aspirations? If it will, yes, we will reduce that. The third was, will it help farmers? Most often, when we were looking during the 8 years into matters related to farming community, it would be that that item on which the rate consideration had to happen, it used to come under the dual use category. Farmers use it, but others also use it. So for the sake of the farmer, if you were to bring down, the way in which people can exploit this would be they will put it all under the lower tax and saying farmers are buying it, whereas farmers may end up buying out of every 10, only 3 or 4, and the rest might be going for other uses. So we didn't want to treat dual use items, even if it's going to benefit the farmer somewhat, we didn't touch those. But now, when we are looking at it afresh, was there a way in which we can consider items which were useful for the farming community to be brought down? So that was my third filter. The fourth filter was, if it is going to help the MSMEs, one, for their raw material or intermediary products which they need for their production, we should consider them and make them cheaper so that MSMEs don't have to have the burden of input costs going very high, and where necessary also to give the relief through input tax credit, although the larger exercise was also to see this inversion be corrected. So input tax credit comes only when the inversion exists. We wanted to remove it, and to a large extent we've removed. But in exceptional cases like for the farmers, or for not so much for the farmers, but for those items produced for the purpose of farmers, and in the case of MSMEs, we were ready to put up with some kind of an inversion and giving refund or making people use their input tax credit. And the last category, the fifth one which we used while reviewing, was for the sake of the larger economy, particularly at a time when PM is talking about Vikasit Bharat by 2047. Strictly speaking, we have only 22 years more to reach that destination. We have to be rapid about doing a lot of things. And so the sectors where we need to have rapid growth, investments, and consumption be given incentive, we kept them as the fifth parameter, and therefore the review looked at these 5 things, and wherever the answer was yes, it will benefit, we have brought the items down. So that is about the rate. The other thing which we kept in mind was classification and classification related problems. I've said this before, I don't mind repeating it. After the Jaisalmer GST Council, on the request of Uttar Pradesh government, where in the ground there was a lot of mismatch and also gaming of the system happening, what was to be sold as namkeen, which was essentially salted items and which had a lower tax, was being used by those who were selling sugary items and showing them as namkeen. How could that happen? If this is sugar and if this is salt and that is sugar, you can't really. But the common underlying factor was the popcorn. Popcorn is the same thing. It can be sold with salt or it can be sold with chocolate and sugar. Every item of popcorn, even if it was coated with chocolate and sugar, was being sold as namkeen, and therefore the state government felt we are losing out because chocolate, sugary popcorn had to have a higher tax because that is there and they have to pay it. But that's not happening. Will the GST Council give a clarification? We gave the clarification. But the clarification and the necessity for a clarification was because that item, popcorn, was being treated under two different classifications. And that led to gaming, confusion, government losing revenue and so on. So even that was kept in mind, and that is why this new generation GST is not just for reducing the rate and the burden on the citizen, but also clearing up the confusion which businesses face, making it easy for compliance. And I'll jump 2 or 3 steps much before I get into the slide presentation. When I say ease of doing business, compliance becoming simpler, not just in terms of the form, the complication of the form, but also you go for a registration of a new entity which wants to be part of the GST. Earlier it was unpredictable how long it will take because they had to do n number of checking, on-site inspection, and some other time also checking up on validity of the papers and so on. So there was no guarantee that you would get it within a certain predictable number of days. But now what we've said is within 3 days the registration will be done and made complete. So process reform is also a very big thing in this new generation GST reforms that we've brought in. And also, most often the MSMEs feel where they are due or where it is their due to get refunds. Refunds take a lot of time to be given. So in that case, we were very clear and we looked into ways in which that can be also cleaned up. Now in the new Next Gen GST, we are saying 90% of your refund will be automatically given. Only 10% will be kept. Only 10% will be kept for making sure that there are no false claims and you want to be sure that the system is convinced that the refund is going to the right hand. So 90% will be automatic. So the point that I want to say is this proposal from the Union Government to the GST Council, and in the GST Council, before coming to the GST Council, in the GOMs, which looked at rate rationalization, which looked at insurance premium being taxed, which also looked at the compensation cess. These 3 GOMs were sent the copy, and because Bengal, Kolkata citizens are very aware, I want to say here, because periodically you hear this voice from some in the opposition. Oh, the Prime Minister made the announcement from Red Fort. So imagine what is the stature of the GST Council. GST Council is a constitutional body. We respect the body and its complete autonomy. What the Prime Minister said from the Red Fort was, we will get you a tofa gift before Deepavali. Something is happening in the GST Council. He didn't spell out the rates. He didn't say anything about the compensation cess, whether it's going to continue or whether it's going to shut. Nor did he say everything that which has been given is for the sake of the people, so it will clear. Nothing. He just indicated. And what actually happened post that? We followed every rule of the GST and made sure, and in fact that day before the PM announced, well before he announced, if I'm right, even the previous night, the group of ministers were sent the proposal already. They had received it, they would have seen it as well. So it's not as if the PM is announcing much before they received it. They have all been sent the due papers and they've received it, after which PM gave a clue. So that is one thing for clearing some doubts which some people may have. Okay, so with all this, the GOMs considered it, and after that, post the GOMs, it went to the council, which is what the rule says. You should go back to the council to take a final call. And every aspect of it had been looked into. Even opposition ruled states, inclusive of Bengal, had agreed that this proposal from the union, insofar as it is dealing with the rate reduction, insofar as it is talking about the slab reduction, and insofar as it is dealing with health insurance related matters, and insofar as it is dealing with the compensation cess, they are all with us. So there was near unanimity on the proposal which was given by the centre to the GST Council. And that is why, after the council meeting was over, when I came to address the press, even though it was a bit late in the night, I began by saying I'm thankful to every member of the GST Council for having come together and in one voice agreed on this. So where was the difference? States, particularly those in the opposition party ruled states, had a concern that this proposal, yes, it is in favor of the common man, yes, it is bringing rates down, but what if it results in revenue being lesser than what it is before for states? Who is going to fill that gap? Was the question on which the states had discussed. And I had in the council very clearly heard all of them as the chair of the council and said very clearly to them, and which is what I will say here, even the example or the way in which I explained it is what I did in the council and putting it to you here. I said, if there is an impact on revenue, it is for both the centre and the states. And in the GST Council, all of us are seated as equals. The centre has 1/3. The states together have 2/3. And I sort of dramatized to say, we are all sitting together here and there is a bori or a gunny bag in the centre. All of us are earning our GST and the money goes into the gunny bag, which is in the middle. If it is falling short of our expectation, all of us have to improve our collection efficiency and bring more money into the gunny bag. If it is not because of that, and if revenue is actually showing good buoyancy and we are having more, happily all of us will share it. But I, representing the centre, I am not sitting with a suitcase next to me which is exclusive to me, that I can take money out of it and fill the gap in the gunny bag which is at the centre. There is no donor-donee relationship within the GST Council. So there is no way in which this concern that what if there is a revenue impact, who will fill the state's revenue falling? Centre's revenue falls even further, because if the GST is divided between the centre and the states 50-50, everything that you earn will be 50% given to the states and 50% will be the centre. From the centre's 50, 41% still goes to the states. The centre ends up having only 23% of the total, and for us the fall will also be seriously impacting us. So that explanation I kept giving more than once, but I will be amiss if I don't give credit to the states for having come together and agreed and approved on this proposal to reduce the rates. So to that extent, I am grateful to everybody I said this to the media as well. Immediately the next day, I wanted to send a letter, but it couldn't happen the next day, but it happened the day after. I wrote personalized letter to every one of the finance ministers who were sitting in the council, irrespective of party or affiliations of any sort, and thanked them for having played a very constructive role, because Indian people need this reduction now, and we are in a position to clean up the system, reform the system, make it user friendly, and make businesses feel that they are not going through very rigorous, laborious process. So every one of this has happened. Now with this said, before I get into much more detail, I'd like to go to the PPP, which will give you a gist as to what is this that we're talking about. Earlier there were 4 rates, 5, 12, 18, 28. Now it's only 5 and 18. And again, let's understand the GST. Earlier, this very government, under Prime Minister Modi's leadership, no one imagined that the personal income tax, which was at 7.76 lakhs per year, meaning up to 7.76 lakhs, nobody had to pay any tax. After that is when some rates were there. So an individual earning 7 lakhs or even up to 7.76 lakhs didn't have to pay tax. People were guessing if it will be changed, will it be improved upon, and even some were guessing up to 8 lakhs probably. And even in the opposition, some wildest suggestions went only up to 10 lakhs. If they do 10 lakhs, it will make some sense to the people, but they won't. But we did 12 lakhs. Meaning, any citizen earning 1 lakh per month truly does not have to pay even 1 paisa as tax. So that's the change Prime Minister Modi brought in, and it is this government which made the difference to the personal income tax. Earlier in 2019, the corporate income tax was also brought down to be the lowest in the world. So from there to the personal income tax. And compliance with income tax was also a tedious exercise. I had announced in the July budget 24 that we'll make the income tax simpler than what it is. Since 1961, the Income Tax Act was never touched, except for adding more on it, amending more, and making that income tax document. I'm sure many of you all chartered accountants and tax consultants who are in this audience will know that book was growing by the year. It was becoming an income tax tome. 5 lakh words. We brought it down by half. And for the first time, not just amend it, completely keep it by the side and bring in a new income tax act, which luckily went to the select committee, their suggestions came, and after that the parliament passed. Is now only with about 2,50,000 words, less number of chapters, less number of clauses, and so on. So on tax reform, one after the other the ministry has been working. I actually am surprised that the Department of Revenue and its bureaucrats, normally the feeling about not just revenue related, but in general bureaucrats don't act swiftly as an elected government. So you don't get to delivering all your promises in time. But here is a case that soon after 2024 election, work commenced on very many aspects, but in 8 months' time, the income tax was brought down. That is up to 12 lakhs no income tax. Income Tax Act was completely revamped, made simpler. And it is that very Department of Revenue now which has come with a revamped GST. Therefore, bureaucrats deliver when the leadership is right. When Prime Minister Modi's message was given, simplify it, make it user-friendly, let businesses understand that they can deal with it, let them not be bogged down, all three have been achieved. So now 140 crore Indians benefit. Why is that important for us? If it's income tax, it applies to some sections which have income worthy of paying tax. If it's corporate tax, it's for companies. If it is STT, it is only for those who are transacting in the stock markets. Capital gains, it's only for those who have actually, by buying and selling their properties or something, who have acquired a gain by selling their capital assets. So each one of this touch upon only one section of the society, each accordingly. But here is a tax, which whether you're rich or poor, whether you live in urban areas or rural areas, whether you're a man or a woman, from the morning, since you wake up till you go to bed, every item that you're talking about, which you buy for your personal use, is touched by the GST. And therefore, 140 billion people have something or the other about the GST, and therefore this reduction is going to benefit each one of our Nagarik. Each one of our citizens is going to be impacted, and if all the items have been given a complete shake-up, as I said, on the 5 category, if it is daily use, if it is middle class aspiration, if it's farmer, if it is MSME, if it's for the larger good of the economy, all of them are coming down in the rates. And coming to Bengal, I've been on the road since after the GST Council had cleared it, going from city to city, talking about what's this going to mean to all of us. And coming to Bengal, I'm happy to say the determination of September 22nd was largely influenced by the Pujo. Because it is Puja. Although the Prime Minister had said before Deepavali, and although the industry was telling us, oh no, we'll have to wait till Deepavali, because people are coming to the shop, doing window shopping, or getting some pamphlets from us as to what is the cost, what is the specification and everything else, and are going back, they're not buying. When are you going to bring this? Please get it from tomorrow, was the request from the industry after the GST Council's decision. But we had to be practical. The GSTN, which is the GST network, the digital network which governs the entire country, had to be readied, vendors had to be spoken to, the small merchants had to be spoken to, they all have to amend their entire billing system to reflect the new decision. And the new decision is not on one commodity or two, it is on the entire gamut of GST. So people had to be given their time to readjust. And in that process, somebody said, why don't we do it from 10th September? Then somebody else said, no, from 15th September. Then we said, no, wait, when does Bengal's Pujo begin? It is after the Shraddha period, which is the Pitru Paksh. So, if Prime Minister Modi indicated Deepavali, and if GST has gone through a major revamp, the Shubha Mangal Divas is first day of Navaratri, the next day of Mahalaya. So don't you see the very strong influence of Bengal in this decision making? Absolutely for you all. So I would think the message from Bengal is what is going to influence the rest of the country, like it did during independence struggle. Like Bengal has always been leading the country. Now I would want each one of you all to go out there. Go to every shop that you want. Do the purchases. You should show the way, saying Indian economy now benefits from the GST second generation reform. We the citizens are going to use it to the maximum, and we can move to the next slide. This will naturally show a lot of impact on the overall economy. But before I go to that, I want to say, in the current system, whichever number of items, so how many ever number of items are there in 12% rate, suppose they are 100, under 12% rate, 99 of them are going to 5%. So there is no more 12%. But what happens to those items which are under 12? 99 are going to 5, only 1% is going to 18. So that's what is being shown there. Then another rate which is disappearing is 28%. There's no more 12 in the new scheme, no more 28 also in the new scheme. And in the 28% tax, rate cut in 90% of the goods which are in 28%. So from 28 they are all moving to 18. 98%. Sorry, 90% of all those which are in the 28% rate now are moving to 18, and only the rest are going to the demerit rate of 40%. Demerit. So from now, if there is going to be any shuffling in the GST, it will be between 5 and 18. Those category which is existing in 40 cannot draw these items there. Only items which are defined as demerit or sin goods are the ones which are going there to 40. So that is not even in the reckoning, and even in the 40, not more than 17, if I know right, subject to correction, items are at the 40%. So, the next slide. Till now in the 8 years, what did the GST do? 65 lakhs was the number of people who were in the GST system, meaning they were charging GST. In 2017, they were 65 lakh at the time of introduction. In the 8 years, that number has gone to 1.51 crores. So GST has actually drawn more people into it and widened the net. And the money earned, that is a gross, not talking of refunds here, where we were collecting in 2018 only 7.19 lakh crores. Today we are collecting 22.08 lakh crores annually. So actually GST has made a very big positive contribution in terms of revenue generation. States benefit, center also benefits. Next. So this is one very quick one to say there was consensus, everybody has participated. It is a beautiful example of center state, the federalist setup and so on. So it's in a way showing maturity, because post 1947, if there was one constitutional body newly created in India, it is the GST Council. And that has periodically stood the test of every test of time. During COVID, it handled its matters. It was decided between center and state how we will make up for those revenue loss. And after that also, every decision has been pro-people, and GST Council has actually shown wisdom and maturity in its leadership as a body, as a whole. Next one. And this is a very important data that we should understand. The rate cut and the new GST reforms will inject nearly 2 lakh crore into the system. So, I take the example. We give PLIs, semiconductor manufacturer, earlier automobile manufacturing. We want to incentivize them so that they can produce and produce well in this country. Assume for PLI we give a certain amount. By injecting this amount through the rate cuts for GST, we are actually giving 10 times of what PLIs are giving directly to the people. You get that money in your hand, you decide how do you want to spend, you want to promote in terms of consuming certain goods from some sectors, whether it is cars or anything else, or you want to build your house, or you want to save it. So, what a PLI requires, this gives, the GST rate cut actually gives 10 times more than that one PLI. That money actually is going not to the sectoral producers, but to the people's hands. That's the volume that we are talking about. And similarly, if you were going to compare it with PM Awas Yojana, which is a welfare scheme for the poor who don't have house, we provide them houses. So if you were to compare it with Awas Yojana, this is 4 times more than the Awas Yojana, that the money is going to the hands of the people itself. So this reform is not just going to promote one sector, it is going to be benefiting every citizen in terms of the money that he spends in the form of tax will be far lesser than what he did before. Next. So what will the impact, overall impact be? Rates have come down, consumption can go up, higher demand and higher production. The more the demand, the companies which are selling those products will have to invest more, produce more, their capacities will go up. As a result, more production will lead to more jobs. As a result, more jobs means wider the tax base, because more people will have income to buy things and also pay tax if it comes to them at their personal whatever level of income they earn. Then from there, the tax base widens, but that will lead to a foundation for even lesser taxes. If more people are paying tax, we can even bring the burden down even further. That leads to lower taxes and more spending in the economy. The virtuous cycle will actually start moving and moving fast. Most of the economists will talk to you about virtuous cycle and vicious cycle. This is actually a classic example of what virtuous cycle can do to our economy. Next one. What are the items in which we brought down the rates? Dairy essentials, milk, paneer, curd, Bengal, paneer. The rate is now from 5% to nil. Completely remove the tax on paneer. Start your puja with happiness. Have as many rasmalais as you want or rasgullas as you want. Groceries. 12% has come down to 5%. Daily essentials, which are like hair oil, shampoo, toothpaste, soap, all of them have come down from 18 to 5%. Similarly, butter, ghee and other bartan vagera utensils that you buy are all now to 5 from 12%. So all this actually changes the very nature of household expenditure, which will trigger a higher consumption. Household consumption can go up because of this. Actually then also insurance, the GST on insurance premiums has come down. In fact, has been removed totally. Medical equipments, life-saving drugs and many critical medicines rates have also come down. So health sector gets a big boost because the rates have all come down. Diagnostic equipments, medicines, life-saving drugs, insurance through policy, the GST premium being taxed, being brought down. So all 4 aspects of medical and health are being attended to. So then aspirational goods such as cars, fridges and ACs have all come down from 28 to 10%. We are not talking about BPS. They are percentage points, 10 percentage points coming down. Next one. I've already explained this. Drastic rural economy related products have come down. Agricultural modernization can happen. Farmer income and profitability will go up. Drastic reduction in farming costs. The inputs which go for the farmers have all come down. Yeah. Health and fitness, I told you about it. Life insurance, I spoke. Even sporting equipments, gym costs are all, spa and things like that are all going to be affordable now. And I've again spoken about the nutritional items, the food, milk and milk related products. So all round savings for families. Now there was also this point about, is this reform going to help in compliance becoming simpler? I've already explained it. Blocking of capital will not happen anymore because 90% of automatic refund is happening. And because of the 2-rate structure, you know where your item is, there is no confusion. Classification has been made simpler, 30% faster logistics and lower costs create a greater level playing field for all the small businesses. Next. Next. Going backwards. Next. Okay. The last one, I wouldn't want to go back on more of the slides, although there are interesting things which is getting circulated as well. See, by powering all Atmanirbhar Bharat with lower tax on raw materials, packaging and farming goods, you're moving towards a better inverted duty structure, fixed, freeing up of capital, taxes on inputs no longer higher than the taxes on the final goods. So that itself will simplify. Third is the auto registration, making it simpler. Fourth is the ease of compliance, automated refund, AI-enabled leakage prevention. Fifth is 30% faster logistics due to no state borders checkposts. And finally, improved cash flow, reduced refund, and so on. Now, I've circulated the material, but I like to highlight the fact that this Next Gen GST reform actually benefits Bengal literally on specific items. I've already spoken about the two-wheelers, small cars, three-wheelers, bicycles, and so on. The family budget, for instance, on a 1 lakh worth bike, saving is estimated to be 10,000 rupees now. 1 lakh costing bike, you will be paying 10,000 less. For a 6 to 8 lakh small car, saving is 60,000 to 80,000 rupees. If there is an auto for 3 lakhs, saving is 30,000 rupees. So that is the extent to which literally you're going to pay less for each of these items. Similar for auto parts, instead of 28%, you will be paying 18%. Personal care, household, all that list is there, which is being distributed. But I will go to the next section, which is important, and I think very important for me to say this here. There are 11 specific signature of Bengal items, which I'd like to highlight. Even this is getting distributed. Shantiliketan leather goods. Regions which will benefit from this are Birbhum district, Shantiliketan, Bolpur and adjacent villages like Surul and Ballavpur. What is it? The rate comes down on the item being produced there on the leather goods from 12 to 5%. I don't need to give the details. Leather items from Bengal will be lesser. Bankura, Panchmura, terracotta crafts will now be only 5%. From 12, even that has come down to 5%. And this will actually help the Kumbhakar, the pottery makers, and that will benefit them. Many artisan families live in extreme poverty. For them, an average monthly household income as low as 7,320 will now have a benefit of this tax reaching them because they can sell their products faster and reach greater markets. Madur Khati mats. I think that is being produced by Mahishya craftsmen. Mahishya is a caste, I think. They produce it. So Madur Khati mats, which are produced in Purba Medinipur, Paschim Medinipur districts, Sabang in Paschim Medinipur, Balurghat. Okay. So their products are now going to be taxed only at 5% and not 12% with this new renewed GST. Purulia Chow masks. The masks which are made in Purulia district will also now benefit because their rate is coming down from 12 to 5%. I think this is a very important traditional dance form for which the masks are being made. The next item is wooden masks of Kush Mandi. Dakshin Dinajpur district, centered Kushmandi block, produces Mahish Batan. That benefits, so his constituency is going to be benefited 12 to 5%. The next is Shola Peat Craft, which is done in Bardhaman, Murshidabad, Birbhum, Nadia, Hooghly, Malda and South 24 Parganas. Even they come down from 12 to 5%. So these are very, very important products which are made for the Hastakala Shilpa Mela and also for Puja, which is very important for decoration. Nakshi Kanta, which is all over rural Bengal but largely from Birbhum, Murshidabad and Nadia. Handmade hand embroidery items like shawls are also going to be at 5 from 12%. Further, processed mango products from Malda. These are GI tagged items. They are exported. They have a huge revenues earned out of it. Malda town alone exports mangoes. The last data that I have is 2023, which says over 80 crores worth fresh mangoes were exported. Now they will stand to benefit because Malda is famous for 200 varieties of mangoes. And I think 3 or 4 of them, Fasli, Lakshman Bhog and Himsagar have GI tag as well. So we've reduced for them. Darjeeling tea, again 18 to 5%. Basic tea remains at 5%. So that is going to also help, the reduction will help them. Jute bags and shopping bags, again coming down to 5 from 12. Largely Kolkata, Howrah, Hooghly, North 24 Parganas district. Again, the rural activity will now be better supported. Hosiery and ready-made garments coming from Kolkata, actually Metia Bazaar, Baruipur, and areas around Siliguri. All of them will benefit from this. There was a cap of 1,000 rupees earlier. Now it has been increased to 2,500. Up to 2,500, buying an item will now cost less, and therefore this is a very important thing. So West Bengal, I've just done a quick study of how Bengal will benefit out of the specific reduction. I don't want to extend my conversation more. This is one of the major revamp, and this will actually benefit every citizen, and states which are specifically with handloom, handicrafts and rural products will have their livelihoods see better days. Thank you very much.
Just 5 seconds. Excuse me.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity to be with you all. I thank the BJP state party, the president, the members of parliament, the ministers, and also former minister Swapan, former MP, and also the finance domain expert who's had so many different roles, the finance commission, and also now being an MLA in Bengal's assembly. So all Varisht on the dais who represent the BJP, and also the invited audience and the enthusiasts who want to know about what exactly we have done in the GST. But in between, I will also take this opportunity to every now and then say about what is being given as per the recommendation of the Finance Commission and beyond it also. I requested the teams to distribute the facts about tax devolution, comparison between the 10 years or 11 years now of Prime Minister Modi-led government and also the 10 years before that under the UPA, to make sure that the numbers speak for themselves. You'll be able to take more informed call on how you want to present the facts in public domain when you're all discussing. So it also talks about the number of projects which have come to Bengal in the last 10 years, and in the recent past what's more been added and so on. So the first set which got distributed to you has all the details that you need about money, devolution, projects which are coming to Bengal. All rightfully, I'm not in any way suggesting that we are doing a act of kindness, but I also want to confirm that there's nothing being denied. So that is what is the first set of documents. There is a second document set which is coming, probably they're just going to start distributing it, which specifically tells you about the New Gen GST reforms, in which I'm not even going to the presentation as yet. The document set which will get distributed will tell you about what are the common use items in which the rates have come down. And before I go into that detail, the new generation GST reforms is a thorough review and a proposal which resulted in a proposal after the review. So the thorough review is what? In the last 8 years, keeping the framework intact, which was a framework formed at the stage of introducing GST, and we kept improving it in the last 8 years. But there was a time about 8 months ago, Honorable Prime Minister invited me and said, look, I want you to do something about GST. What his pain was that the good work done under GST in bringing the entire market of India together, subsuming both taxes and cesses which were introduced in various states, 24 of them together, 17 laws I think, and many others, taxes and others less cesses and surcharges and duties. So they were all subsumed and India was made to be one single market so that the same item doesn't cost differently in different places, and also the toll tax and the crossing of the border, the logistic headaches, all of them were overcome. And at that time the rates, right at the beginning I want to put it before you, the 4 rates, which I'm not going into the presentation yet, but that presentation, that one slide will show you, it was 5, 12, 18 and 28. They were all decided on the basis of the committee which looked into how to fix the rates, and any item which was, let's say, one rate of tax in one state, another rate of tax in another state, as a result you had the same item being at 3% in some states, 6% in some others, 7% in some others, and so on. They were brought together to be at 5. Similarly, those which were at 10 or those which were at 13 or 14 were brought together to be at 12. The closest available in the 4 rates, which was the GST from 17 till today. So that also was not fixed randomly. A complete exercise was taken up. For every item, what was the prevailing rate in different states? The closest it can be brought in, sometimes more, sometimes less, was to the 5, 12, 18 and 28 category. So that's the one which prevails. So what was the need for us to review? The need for us to review was, first of all, we didn't want 4 rates. But were we ready to get into one rate situation as yet? Not yet. Maybe sometime in future. So we brought together the entire set of commodities and understood it from 5 different parameters. One, is it going to help the poor, the middle class, by bringing the item down in terms of taxable rate? Are we benefiting the poor and the middle class? If yes, yes, we'll do it. The next was, is it meeting the middle class's aspiration? Middle class pays the tax, but feels that if today they were to move from a small TV at home to a larger TV, they are paying lots more tax. or they want to move from a small car or a scooter to a even better family car, even that was higher on the tax according to the perception, and maybe so because of categories of taxes. And therefore the second parameter was, will it help the middle class to meet their aspirations? If it will, yes, we will reduce that. The third was, will it help farmers? Most often, when we were looking during the 8 years into matters related to farming community, it would be that item on which the rate consideration had to happen, it used to come under the dual use category. Farmers use it, but others also use it. So for the sake of the farmer, if you were to bring down, the way in which people can exploit this would be they will put it all under the lower tax and saying farmers are buying it, whereas farmers may end up buying out of every 10, only 3 or 4, and the rest might be going for other uses. So we didn't want to treat dual use items, even if it's going to benefit the farmer somewhat, we didn't touch those. But now, when we're looking at it afresh, was there a way in which we can consider items which were useful for the farming community to be brought down? So that was my third filter. The fourth filter was, if it is going to help the MSMEs, one, for their raw material or intermediary products which they need for their production, we should consider them and make them cheaper so that MSMEs don't have to have the burden of input costs going very high. And where necessary also to give the relief through input tax credit, although the larger exercise was also to see this inversion be corrected. So input tax credit comes only when the inversion exists. We wanted to remove it, and to a large extent we've removed. But in exceptional cases like for the farmers, or for not so much for the farmers, but for those items produced for the purpose of farmers, and in the case of MSMEs, we were ready to put up with some kind of an inversion and giving refund or making people use their input tax credit. And the last category, the fifth one which we used while reviewing, was for the sake of the larger economy, particularly at a time when PM is talking about Vikasit Bharat by 2047. Strictly speaking, we have only 22 years more to reach that destination. We have to be rapid about doing a lot of things. And so the sectors where we need to have rapid growth, investments, and consumption be given incentive, we kept them as the fifth parameter, and therefore the review looked at these 5 things, and wherever the answer was yes, it will benefit, we have brought the items down. So that is about the rate. The other thing which we kept in mind was classification and classification related problems. I've said this before, I don't mind repeating it. After the Jaisalmer GST Council, on the request of Uttar Pradesh government, where in the ground there was a lot of mismatch and also gaming of the system happening. What was to be sold as namkeen, which was essentially salted items and which had a lower tax, was being used by those who were selling sugary items and showing them as namkeen. How could that happen? If this is sugar and if this is salt and that is sugar, you can't really. But the common underlying factor was the popcorn. Popcorn is the same thing. It can be sold with salt or it can be sold with chocolate and sugar. Every item of popcorn, even if it was coated with chocolate and sugar, was being sold as namkeen, and therefore the state government felt we are losing out because chocolate, sugary popcorn had to have a higher tax because that is there and they have to pay it. But that's not happening. Will the GST Council give a clarification? We gave the clarification. But the clarification and the necessity for a clarification was because that item, popcorn, was being treated under 2 different classifications. And that led to gaming, confusion, government losing revenue and so on. So even that was kept in mind, and that is why this one this new generation GST is not just for reducing the rate and the burden on the citizen, but also clearing up the confusion which businesses face, making it easy for compliance. And I'll jump 2 or 3 steps much before I get into the slide presentation. When I say ease of doing business, compliance becoming simpler, not just in terms of the form, the complication of the form, but also you go for a registration of a new entity which wants to be part of the GST. Earlier it was unpredictable how long it will take because they had to do n number of checking, on-site inspection, and some other time also checking up on validity of the papers and so on. So there was no guarantee that you would get it within a certain predictable number of days. But now what we've said is within 3 days the registration will be done and made complete. So process reform is also a very big thing in this new generation GST reforms that we've brought in. And also, most often the MSMEs feel where they are due or where it is their due to get refunds. Refunds take a lot of time to be given. So in that case, we were very clear and we looked into ways in which that can be also cleaned up. Now in the new Next Gen GST, we are saying 90% of your refund will be automatically given. Only 10% will be kept. Only 10% will be kept for making sure that there are no false claims and you want to be sure that the system is convinced that the refund is going to the right hand. So 90% will be automatic. So the point that I want to say is this proposal from the Union Government to the GST Council, and in the GST Council, before coming to the GST Council, in the GOMs, which looked at rate rationalization, which looked at insurance premium being taxed, which also looked at the compensation cess. These 3 GOMs were sent to the copy and